Pain and injury can strike any time. You might be out on a run, slamming a dunk, or chasing a ball. Reduce the risk of pain and injury by warming up your muscles for peak performance with Deep Heat. And when the race is run, cool down with ice gel to relieve any sprains or strains. Fast, targeted pain relief from the iconic brand you know and trust since 1956. Feel it work. Available in supermarkets and pharmacies. Always read the label and follow the directions for use.
You're listening to Saturday Night with Simon Owen on Melbourne 3AW.
And just before we get to the podcast motive and method, email from Marg. Thank you, Marg. Territory is dross. That guy was right. Well, it's not getting rave reviews, is it? But thank you, Mark, for your feedback on it. It's out there on Netflix if people want to check it out, but not good reviews as such. A couple of calls as well before we get to the podcast. Peter, g'day, Peter.
How are we, folks?
Yeah, good. What you got?
I've only just jumped onto the radio, so I've only come in at the tail end of this.
Yep.
Don't know whether you're looking for full beards or just facial hair.
Any facial hair?
Right, you can't go past Don Johnson. He was the master of designer stubbles back in the Miami Vice days.
He was too,
And
wasn't he?
he basically started the trend throughout the world.
Yeah, he was he pre-George Michael? I think with his stubble, I think he wasn't he?
Gotcha.
Yeah. And he was he also the one who introduced the world to pastel shirts and under a light grey suit jacket?
Yes, that and sunglasses which were popped off with aplomb.
Yes. Oh, no, classic. Don Johnson is a great suggestion. Thank you, Peter. Any others?
The only one that came to mind. There's a couple of mustaches out there, but they've probably been mentioned.
No worries. All right, good on you, Peter. Thank you. Mark. G'day, Mark.
G'day, how you doing?
Yeah, good.
I got the ultimate.
Yeah.
Lon Chaney Jr.
Now I can't picture him in my head. Hang on.
He was the Wolfman.
Was he?
Yeah, he was the original Wolfman.
Oh, he was too, yes. Oh, yes, now that I've got a picture in front of me, yes. A werewolf-looking thing. Yes, the Wolfman. Oh, that is, yeah. Oh, no, that's perfect, yes. Oh, that's very good. Anyone wondering, just Google Lon Chaney Jr. Wolfman. You get the photo. And that would have to be a winner. Next time we do that subject, I'm popping that one in. That's a great one. We'll no doubt do it again in about 3 years' time. Thank you for that, Mark. Appreciate it. Now, we better get on to tonight's, this hour's podcast. So this week we had some very... Hang on, I've got... 7:40. Yeah, that's this one. This week we had some very concerning news during the rounds about the alarming number of missing women on the New South Wales North Coast. 67 specifically, from Newcastle up to Byron Bay, with Upper House member Jeremy Buckingham even telling the New South Wales State Parliament he believes a serial killer or killers are at work. Dr. Xanthi Mallet and criminal psychologist Tim Watson-Munro discussed the issue in the latest episode of their podcast called Motive and Method, where they spoke to a Byron Bay local, Laura Clare, who had a very worrying encounter.
Welcome to the show.
Yes, welcome.
Why don't you tell us your story, Laura, and then we can kind of look at, how common we think that type of experience might be, especially around the Byron area.
Yeah, so in 2008, I was with my friend, and it was a really hot day, and we just wanted to travel a short distance from Byron to Suffolk Park. And I was 21. I had been around Byron for a little while, not too long, but had this real sense of, peace-loving hippie town, and everyone around the area was hitchhiking, and it didn't seem to be such a big deal. So I convinced my friend, who wasn't as keen to hitchhike, and we put our thumbs out, and almost straight away a van pulled up, and nothing to really note about the guy. He seemed quite normal in what I would consider normal, and so I put my friend in the back and when I went to get in the front, there was a big knife on the front seat.
That's a red flag right there.
Yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you? But unfortunately for my undeveloped frontal lobe, it was, oh, can I just put that on the floor so that I can get in? And
Rather than run.
yeah. So I jumped in, and my first question to him was, oh, so what's the knife for? It wasn't out of an alarmed place. It was out of a place of curiosity, which is alarming in itself.
So obviously he couldn't have really struck you as odd, even sitting in the car with that knife, because that would have been a time where you would have started to, get fearful. But still, even at this point, you're still calm, and he seems reasonable.
Yeah, and his answer was quite, like, oh, I'm a chef. And I go, oh, okay, well that...
Didn't I read it was a rusty knife?
Yeah, so the knife was very rusty, and it did not look like something that you would want anywhere near food.
Even in Byron.
Even in Byron. And so he then said that he wasn't currently employed. And those two moments together just made me feel really uneasy. And so I just kind of said to him, oh yeah, that's us just up there, which it wasn't, but I think he knew that, and we all knew there was near uncomfortability in the van, so he just dropped us off, and I didn't. The moment he dropped us off, and I think that this might happen in a lot of instances, especially as a woman, you're sort of kind of taught from a young age, oh, maybe he likes you or he doesn't mean it or whatever, these kind of things. And when he let us out of the van, I was like, oh, well, he couldn't be a murderer because he let us out.
But that's a worry, isn't it, that you even thought, oh, he couldn't be a murderer, he let us out, which means your brain is saying he could be a murderer. Yeah, like red, like all those flashing lights, all those warnings are going off in your head.
I know that road very well. I live in Byron Bay a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So how far down Bangalow Road were you before you kind of said, oh, here we are? Were you for locals near the servo or before then?
Before the servo. So we were actually near the high school, near the school.
You didn't go far at all.
Which is why I think he was like... But also, it's been brought to my attention a few things since this has come out. Firstly, we were in, as you know, that area, it gets quite banked up, especially around certain times of the day. If we had have drawn attention to ourselves, if he had refused to let us out, we were in a kind of space where we could have drawn attention to ourselves.
With him having no escape route because of the traffic, presumably.
Exactly. So there could have been many reasons why we were let out of that van, apart from it. He was just a chef and out of work. Another thing people told me was that I put my fingerprints on the knife, which I didn't think about before. That's true. Yeah.
So you're the serial killer.
So if it comes out where I'm linked to this somehow, just want to say. Completely.
But all that does is corroborate your story. I mean, that's a perfectly legitimate reason for fingerprints to be on a knife.
Well, so far we have two hitchhikers in a van, you trusting your gut. But what then happened in terms of this bloke that validated your gut reaction?
Well, I didn't report it.
Right.
I didn't even... I think I went about my way that day. I use humour in traumatic situations. Most people find that alarming, but I think it's the way I cope with things. So I sort of made a joke, with Lily, my friend, who was quite shaken up, and just brushed it off. Also because I was feeling guilty about putting her in that situation, and tried to kind of make light of it. And I didn't really... Like, a few friends have said to me since they've seen it, oh, I remember you telling me about that story, but it stuck with me. And I mean, this was 2008, it's now 2024. If you have a situation that has rocked you that much that you remember it and it just stuck with you, like I was saying to someone else, because I mean, I would love to say I never hitchhiked again. I would love to say this taught me a lesson. I did hitchhike one more time after this. I was in a really hard situation, And it did play on, I remember this playing on my mind of being like, you said after this incident, you'll never do it again. This was your warning sign. But I did hitchhike once more after that, but never again.
How about that? The number of people missing is staggering, 67. To listen to the full episode of that podcast, search for Motive and Method wherever you get your podcasts. There are some great articles about this as well at 9.com.au as well. So if true crime stuff interests you, especially along those lines, get onto it. Now, we will break. We'll come back. We've got a couple of minutes just ahead of news. And then after the news, the decade quiz. And then I've got an interview for the music segment in the next hour. We'll talk more about that in a sec.